Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to continue our examination of Dark Horse Presents. We'll be looking at number 124 through 127. So let's get started. Number 124 here, we have a really nice cover by Val Mayerick. And, this came out in 1997. Val Mayerick wasn't doing much at the time, so it's kind of nice to see him pop up here. Pretty nice cover. I think it's painted. Table of contents, and we start off with the Predator story, Bump in the Night. This is the story idea was by the writer and the penciler, writer Steve Siegel, and penciler Duncan Rouleau, and it's inked by Jim Royal. And not a fan of this story. I don't like this art. It kind of irks me. So we see these little kids, they're camping out in their backyard. The mother lays down the ground rules. She's like, keep it quiet. You got to be in bed by 10 and no leaving the yard. So we see these kind of bratty, obnoxious kids all horsing around. And one of them says, hey, I saw a UFO in the woods the other day. And he's like, let's break your ma's rule and go off and I'll show you guys where it is. We'll be really quiet and careful so we don't get caught. Right off the bat, it's like, I think if this kid found a UFO, he wouldn't wait more than a half an hour to tell his best friends. I mean, it was days ago, I guess, and he's just like telling them now, like, hey guys, I've been keeping this in my back pocket. So he takes them out to the spot in the woods, and there it is. It's a Predator ship. And this time, unlike the first time, the Predator is actually sitting right in front of it. So, of course, the kids are just like, holy shit, this is amazing. I really don't like the way this guy draws these kids' faces. It kind of reminds me of that John Cleary guy who did that Boof and the Bruise Crew in the 90s, that stupid comic. I don't know, it's like, it's cutesy and weird at the same time. All around, I don't like it. But when he doesn't have to draw a face, this Predator is pretty wicked. It's pretty cool looking. So, all of a sudden, the Predator spins around and picks up a spear and throws it. It almost looks like maybe he's throwing it at the kids, but no, he doesn't see them. They're like off in a distance, checking him out. It turns out he was just bagging a heron, a bird. So I guess he's hungry. So predators just don't go after the universe's most dangerous game. Sometimes they just go after dinner. They gotta eat. So the kids, of course, are like, let's get out of here. Holy shit. The mom catches them, though, and they plead with her and say, okay, Mom, we won't do it again. Please let us finish out the night here in the tent. And she does. She gives in. So the kids are in the tent, and they're just totally gloating how they got away with it. And they really showed that stupid alien. And so one of the kids says, okay, now shut up, guys. Go to sleep, or we're really going to get it. And we see the Predator outside their tent. And you can probably figure out what's going to happen. But I'm kind of bummed this comic didn't have one more page, because it would have really redeemed this story if for one page I got to see the Predator rip the shit out of these kids, these obnoxious kids. That would have made it more fun. We got couple of pages of letters. And now we have John Lewis again, who we saw a few issues back. John Lewis of True Swamp fame. Once again, not drawing very well. That's his modus operandi. But he's a great writer. And anyone who's read True Swamp, almost everyone kind of agrees. Yeah, that John Lewis can't really draw very well. But he tells a damn good story. Very interesting stories. So this is called Outside Inside, a constructive tragedy. So there's this couple, childless couple. They adopt these two boys, Z and H. Can I just say, I just hate when stories do this. Instead of just saying twins named Zach and Howard, they do that Z space. It just smacks of pretension. It's something like postmodern writers do. It doesn't add anything. It's irksome. So one year, the mother says, you can ask you get one present this year for Christmas, but it can be anything you want. And without consulting each other, Z asks for a telescope and H asks for a microscope. Over the next few months, they both become obsessed with their devices. I like this idea that one brother has a device that can look outward, out to the universe, and the other has a device that kind of looks inward into the tiniest aspects of the world. So every Christmas they get additions to their devices, better lenses and shit like that. And so they're really into it. They're kind of obsessive about it. And one day, on his 13th birthday, H says that he discovered a woman's face in the model patterns on the back of a certain microscopic worm. This is what it looks like. Of course, the mother says, H, humans do that. We find pattern recognition. It's just a coincidence. But strangely enough, his brother Z discovers a woman's face on the surface of the moon. Not very well drawn face either. So, I guess the mom is getting fed up, or the father and the mom. So, on their 14th birthday, they don't get any science-orientated presents. So the kids are growing up, and they're kind of experimenting with drugs, listening to rock music. They got some friends. And one day, Z lowers his telescope from the sky and sees a girl across the way undressing. And apparently every night she does this, so he starts watching every night. He totally falls in love with her. He was unaware that his brother, H, knew the girl. In fact, they were study buddies sometimes. So one day in class, H was sitting behind this redheaded girl, his friend, and he was looking at the hairs on the nape of her neck. And he's a total, thinks like a scientist, this guy. So he thought of the worms living on red-haired follicles. Could they be the same species? He comes up with all these theories. Was it the absence of certain worms that made the hairs grow red? He's just totally obsessed with this query, this line of questioning. So the next time he's at her house, he goes in the hamper and steals a pair of her underwear. Now he's caught by the mom. The parents are mortified. They take away his microscope. Z's still allowed to use his telescope, even though he's the one who's been perving on this girl. Because H had no perverted intent at all. He really just wanted to get one of her pubic hairs to run an experiment on. And then this is interesting. It's almost like magical realism. This bit of weirdness pops in the story. Z figures out a way to communicate with the personalities of the constellations. And he figures, this is a great way for me to introduce myself to the redhead in an extraordinary manner. So he made arrangements with Cygnus the Swan to be carried by him to his love's window. And I guess pretty soon the red-haired girl is calling up the police because a boy she didn't know, but it kind of looked like her friend H, smashed bodily through her bedroom window and lost consciousness. And, of course, they take Z away to juvie. And the parents who adopted these two kids, they actually are just sick of both of them. And they actually send H back to the orphanage. So these two guys who are basically on the path to maybe be brilliant scientists just end up in such a shitty place. I like this last panel. It says the parents donated their sophisticated instruments to the school and thought of the boys often and with great sadness for the rest of their lives. And that's how it ends. See, John Lewis, man, he can write a story. Here we have chapter 4 of The Adventures of Jack Zero. I swear to God, this art is just getting better and better. Freaking love this art. So, if you remember, Jack Zero is in, I believe, somewhere in Oregon or Washington, and he's staying with the woman he's in love with. It turns out she's unfortunately married and has a daughter named Sarah. That's who this is. So he's just hanging out with them. And they want him there to protect them from this kind of land baron type who wants their property. And here we see him doing his favorite pastime, painting. God, every panel in this is pretty damn nice. This is an interesting sequence. This fly is bothering Sarah. So he shows off his marksman skills, shoots the fly, but I guess it continues like another 300 yards and kills this owl. These two guys have been staking out the place. You know, they work for the land baron type guy. And they're like, did you see that? He shot an owl from 300 yards away. He didn't even mean to. It was an accident. So they ride off to tell the boss. Meanwhile, Jack and Sarah find the owl, and it reminds him of when his friend died. When he accidentally, was kind of responsible for his friend dying. And he also, the same friend who told him never to kill anyone. And I guess that also pertains to anything. So it makes him very sad that he shot the owl and killed it. And he has this dream about that land baron guy. Hecate Jackson, that's his name. This great panel. Pretty imposing figure. I really love this art by Arnold Pander. So good. You guys, I just remembered, I forgot to mention last time, this series is co-written by someone named Zero Boy, who I think is a performance artist, it said. I didn't even mention that. So it's co-written with Arnold Pander, and Arnold Pander draws everything. So he's having this weird nightmare. The owl shows up. Why did you kill me, Jack? And he wakes up to screams. Sarah says, help, Jack, they're here. So these goons who work for the land baron, they have masks on, and they're like, you better come out here, put down your guns. We got they have Sarah's parents tied up, and they're going to execute them. Really good stuff. I'm digging this Jack Zero. I wish there was more of them. Maybe there is, and I just don't know. Now we have number 125, and look at this beautiful cover, guys. Dan Brereton's The Nocturnals. Beautiful painted cover. I don't know if you guys saw the Nocturnals video I did a couple months back, maybe 3 months back, and I kind of fell in love all over again with the Nocturnals. It's just his beautiful, sumptuous art. I love his stuff. But unfortunately, Dark Horse Presents is not a color comic. It's still amazing art, but it's just a tease. Like, I want to see this in color. Dan Brereton has such a good eye for color. So it's Halloween night, and Witch Girl or whatever, what's her name? I think it's Witch Girl, something like that. She's trick-or-treating, and I guess her dad sent Gunwitch along in case there's trouble, you know, kind of be her bodyguard. I love Gunwitch. Such a great design. And, of course, Witch Girl's being all sassy, kind of funny. Oh, God, he draws these faces so good. I imagine it's photo reference, but he does it really well. So they basically hit every house in the neighborhood. She's still restless. She still wants more candy. So they go into the woods here. It's these kind of scary woods. The trees have faces on them, almost like in Wizard of Oz. And then all of a sudden, this bat comes out of nowhere. Gunwitch catches it in his hand. And it's got a collar with a pentagram on it. So she says, don't let him go, Gunwitch. We'll take you home, little bat. So she figures maybe this bat lives in this little house they saw. From a distance, they saw the glowing window. We see these little gremlin-type creatures following them. So this is some kind of haunted wood. So they make it to this little house. She says, you wait here, Gunwitch. I'll go knock on the door, get some candy. And Gunwitch is at the ready. He's always prepared to protect Witch Girl. And she opens the door. You know, she's got her little jack-o'-lantern candy container. And it's a bunch of pumpkin head men. And they see her basket and they say, they've killed one of our own dear kin. Them's headhunters, boys. And Witch Girl says, uh-oh. God damn it, I need water again. Sorry, guys. My throat's been so scratchy. Another couple pages of letters. And now we have the last chapter of Jack Zero. And this is a pretty explosive finale. So, last issue I didn't mention it, but when Jack was lying in bed there, when he woke up from his nightmare, or before he went to sleep, he was basically just saying, I don't want to kill anyone. These guys basically want me to protect them, but I just want to paint. I'm just a crackerjack, show shooter for circuses. But, of course, now he's got to decide. Unfortunately, he decides way too late. He's a little slow on the draw here because he's so conflicted, and the bad guys kill the parents. So Jack makes up his mind. Kind of weird. I mean, if you're going to kill these guys, if you're going to break your code, you'd think you would have done it before they killed the parents. But he's consumed with vengeance. It's almost like he's not himself. He's possessed. And, with his amazing sharpshooting skills, he kills these guys. He makes pretty short work of them. Because he never misses. God, that's a great spread. Look at that. Just his body language here. Really cool looking. And the main guy, Hecate, he's the only one left alive. And Jack figures, I'd rather see this guy face justice, swing at the end of a rope. And so then he's watching as the house burns down. And he says, the pulp stories ended on a different note. And we see this kind of idyllic chapter book ending where the noble hero has saved the good people of the town. And he rides off and everything's happy and sunny. It's almost like he draws it in a slightly different style. It's very lighter. It's a lighter style. And then we see this is almost like an epilogue, a little coda. We see a poster for Jack's new show, See the Legendary Jack Zero, and Wild West Marksman. God, man, this is some really cool logo work here. Great design. And I love this. It says, plus Sarah, Princess of the Highwire. So obviously we've jumped ahead in time. And now he has adopted Sarah, and she's part of the act. And they go around entertaining people since her parents are dead. Oops, I flipped the comic somehow. Dope. And here we see the last page. And he basically says how he could no longer tell the difference between reality and fantasy fiction. He basically has ended up like Wild Bill Hickok. He says, I had become the myth. I was a killer. Funny thing is, no one seemed to mind except me. You just can't escape who you are. Really good comic. I really like that series. So now we have a Jason Lutes strip, Side Trip. This is kind of like a slice of life type. It reads like an autobio. I don't know if it is. But we see this guy basically has returned home. And he's been away for a while. And he hooks up with his old friend Dom. This kind of skinhead looking dude. And, they're making small talk. Just making conversation. And basically, Dom takes takes the off-ramp to their old hometown. I guess they grew up in some shitty suburban town together, these guys. And so he says, let's go check it out. So they basically go to the main character's old house. They find it. And he does that thing where he knocks on the door and says, can I use your phone? He just wants to walk inside the house and check it out. So he makes a fake phone call. The only number he could think of was his old girlfriend from high school. But that gets him to thinking. He's like, hey, do you know where she lives now? And he's like, this is not a good idea. But he don't even think about it. And I guess she used to live in a certain part of town. And when they drive over to there, where she used to live, it's just a giant fucking, tangle of off-ramps and highway, freeway stuff. So just a little, very quiet little vignette about these two characters. Yeah, it's okay. I like Jason Luce's art. It's so tight and clean. But I like it a lot more in Berlin. Oh, I almost skipped this. Look at that beautiful back cover. Okay, guys, here we have an extra big 48-page issue, number 126. Another beautiful, gorgeous Dan Brereton cover of the Nocturnals. And they also take the lead once again. So we see Gunwitch, and he's ready to kick some ass. I don't know why he's holding back, though, at first. So, God, Witch Girl's like pissed at these guys. She says, "It's a plastic bucket, you retard." Because they really think this plastic bucket is like one of the heads of their brethren. So she's just basically insulting them and being like, "You guys are a bunch of morons." Turns out they just have water pistols. So they basically, I'm sorry, this bat shows up. The bat with the collar. And he basically tells the Pumpkinheads to bind her. And they're going to basically sacrifice her. So they carry her through the woods. Man, look at that. Even in the background here, you barely see it. Just these, like, wash-tone trees here. So beautiful. Hey, if any of you guys know in the comments below, would you let me... Was this like a color story that eventually was printed in color? But Dark Horse Presents just, like, did stats of it in black and white? Because it looks like totally painted art. And I guess sometimes black and white artists, cartoonists do that. But I have a feeling, I wouldn't be surprised. Because later on, we're going to see another series that I'm pretty sure was in color, and they just printed it in black and white, which kind of irks me. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Here's why Gunwitch didn't help. He was knocked out by these fairies, the fairy folk of the forest. So Star shows up and Bandit, two of the Nocturnals. They return his hat to him, and then they go off in pursuit of Witch Girl. Meanwhile, we see her father, Doc Horror, and I can't remember her name, but just kind of bantering, talking. So now the Pumpkinheads take Witch Girl to this witchy lady, and she's cooking up a stew, and she says, "Yeah, we're going to throw you in to sweeten the pot." And that's the cliffhanger ending. We got 2 more pages of letters, and now we have a 1-pager written by Diana Schutz, the kind of the grand poobah of Dark Horse Comics at the time. Oh, I'm sorry. Mike Richardson, I guess, the grand poobah, but she's like the senior editor. She hasn't written much in her whole career as an editor. Illustrated by Bernie Moreau and Rupert Bottenberg. Kind of just looks like Bernie Moreau to me, but it does. I guess it looks a little different. And this is just Diana Schutz describing a dream she had. It's kind of slight. I do like the art, though. I do like this interesting panel arrangement here. How the scissor goes through everything. And she tells it to her brother-in-law, who happens to be Matt Wagner. And he says, "Ain't nothing more boring than other people's dreams." Which almost redeems the comic for me. Where it's like, I'm glad you agree. Because this isn't much of a story. So next we have one half of the guys from Roach Mill, Rich Hedden, writing and penciling. And this is inked and lettered by Mike McPhillips. Oh, shit. It's really hot here, guys. I'm sweaty under my comic. So this is the same team that did that Frankenstein PI story. Maybe about, I don't know. I can't remember how many issues ago it was, but just in the past few weeks we looked at it. Pretty fun stuff. Really fun, zany cartoon style. Definitely in that, like, Mad tradition. They have lots of chicken fat in the backgrounds. We see this guy being attacked by a mummy. I like how the mummy talks in hieroglyphics. His word balloon is full of them. And the jokes there are pretty corny in this one. Though to be fair, one of the characters who says a lot of the corny jokes is supposed to tell corny jokes. That's his character. This guy, Jerry Martin. So it turns out that this superhero, the Snipe, that was the clip he just showed us. And Jerry Martin is very much, obviously, you can tell, supposed to be Don Leno, and he tells really bad jokes. So he's there to push his new documentary. Just to change the perspective, we see part of this conversation on some guy's TV. This guy here is lying in bed with a blow-up sex doll and a bottle of booze he's spilling all over himself. So it's weird because the Snipe, who fights monsters all the time, actually has a pro-monster message. Basically, he's sympathetic to the monsters, even though he stops them at every turn. The Grinch shows up. I don't know why Waldo's in there. The Tasmanian Devil, Mars Attacks, Swamp Thing. Look, even Venom is in here. And then I'm pretty sure that's the old witch from Tales from the Crypt. So they do all this like fun little stuff like that, you know. It's not the greatest story, but it's kind of cute and fun. And yeah, this Jerry guy keeps saying the worst jokes. So it kind of brings the comic down. So Snipe says, hey, I got your present. I got your dinner. It's monster mashed potatoes. And he throws it in his face. And there's garlic in it. Turns out Jerry, the talk show host, is a vampire. So he attacks the Snipe. And kind of fun battle scene here. I guess the Snipe has these retractable hands that he can spring out. He captures him when he turns into a bat. Then he turns into a mist to escape his grasp. But then that's exactly what the Snipe wanted. When he takes his hand off of his arm, it turns into a vacuum cleaner and he sucks him up. So Snipe says that, yeah, I've suspected this for all these years. He's only seen at night. And I guess several months later, Jerry's back on the show. So the Snipe rehabilitated him. He's got a blood patch on, like a nicotine patch, so he doesn't get too hungry. His bloodlust stays under control. Kind of a cute little story. Contributors. And now we have a one-pager from Andy Watson, Skeleton Key. This is one of those comics that used to get a lot of kudos and praise in the 90s. Never read even a page of them. And I kind of suspected the fact that none of my friends read this comic, that maybe it wasn't that great. And from reading this page, I'd never want to read anything by Andy Watson. I know it's just one page. Maybe he has some good stuff. I don't know. But this is just a waste of paper, this page. This is not a waste of paper. This is Steve Weissman, Phineas Phage in The Bookshelf Phantom. I don't know if you guys know Steven Weissman. He draws the cutest kids comics, but they're not really. I mean, they look like kids comics, and kids could read them, but they're funny as hell if you're an adult. Some of them. This one's not so funny, but this is this character Phineas Phage, who he works in a library. He's a little kid, but he assists the librarian, and I guess he can jump into any book on the bookshelf. So he sees Crime and Punishment. And he says, boy, this one's just full of suffering. Maybe I can prevent the crime. So he goes back to Russia in 1865. And he tries to, stop the murder before it happens. Of course, he's too late. The cops come in and arrest him. They think he's the responsible party. And meanwhile, back at the library, the librarian's saying, where is he? Would you believe Siberia? And he ends up in Siberia. And who knows how he'll get home. So this issue is a flip book. So let's do that. And this is the first part of a new series called Metalfer by the French cartoonists Stan and Vince. They did a bunch of stuff for Dark Horse. These guys are really good, as you can tell by this cover. I mean, it's some really fun, almost heavy metal type work, as we shall see now. This is the story I was talking about, guys, where I suspect that this is a color comic. I know it was printed in Europe because it says English translation. So, kind of annoying. Like, I don't want to see a color comic in black and white, even though it looks great. So, guys, I should give you their full name. They go by Stan and Vince a lot, but it's Stan Manoukian and Vince Roucher. Now, I've never seen where they break it down. I don't know who writes and who draws. Maybe they both do. So this is kind of a complex, like, sci-fi tale with the corporate intrigue, mega corporations battling each other. So we see this guy Waxman, and he calls up his rival, this guy Goebbels, and he's gloating to him. He's like, it looks like that scientist guy Jones, he's made up his mind. He's going to go with my company. So this German guy, Goebbels, is furious. And he basically says, I'm going to kill that Jones. Fuck that guy. So he hires this guy, Wilson, Colonel Wilson. He basically is an assassin for hire. He's got a whole kill crew, experienced mercenaries. And you can see like the kind of heavy metal. It's almost like, extreme violence. The scene here, they got some prisoner. And they've got all these wires attached to his skin. And when they kick him off the building and the slack ends on these wires, it rips his skin right off of his body. And we see him plummeting, and he gets hit by this flying vehicle. But look at this art, guys. This is really sharp, and I can only imagine color it's nicer. So these guys are like, totally, this is like classic heavy metal art. So now we see the Wilson guy, the scientist. I guess he's made some new great invention, and it's in the suitcase. So that's what the mercenaries are gonna, Wilson and his mercenaries are tasked with, get the suitcase and kill Wilson. So they break into his place, and Wilson's blown out of his building. And but he's totally lucky, though. He lands right in this garbage that breaks his fall. So they've got to chase him now. And we get this really fun, exciting chase, very violent, where these guys are missing Wilson, blowing up dogs. You see this poor dog with his head flying off. And that's where we end for this issue, where they're chasing him through the city. Now we have a Starship Troopers story. I guess at this time, Dark Horse had the license. I don't think they had it long. I don't think anyone cared. Now this is interesting. It's written by Jan Strnad, the great underground writer who went on, of course, to do many mainstream things, and drawn by Tommy Lee Edwards, the late lamented. I gotta say, not my favorite Tommy Lee Edwards art job. This one's a little, I don't know, just too rough for me, I guess. I don't like it as much as his normal stuff. So this one's, I love some Jan Strnad stories. In fact, he's written some of the most memorable stories that I've ever read. This one's so dumb. We see basically this kid, and he's remembering this incident, this horrible thing where he was in a junkyard. The guard dogs came out. He couldn't make it to the fence in time. So he climbed into this old refrigerator. Of course, the oxygen was getting less and less. He was praying to his mama, just saying, "Mama, please find me. Somebody's got to find me." And we see how it began. His two friends kind of egged him on, his two older friends. And he fell for the bait. He was like, "Okay, I'm not a chicken. I'm going to do it." And that's how he ended up in this refrigerator. Now we flash forward. It was a dream. And so this guy's now, he's an adult now. He's General Owen of the Starship Trooper bug fighting force. And his second in command wakes up and says, the remote sentries are missing. I think we're going to be under attack. We got to go to Code Red. And Now the General Owen thinks back and says, if I only I didn't let that general goad me into this. And we see a flashback, and this general basically says, it's a really dangerous, he knew this planet was incredibly dangerous, totally behind enemy bug lines. But the guy basically said, oh, what are you, scared? And he actually fell for it once again. So the bugs attack. And very savagely, knocking guys' heads off. And right from the get-go, it just looks like it's hopeless. So General Owen just runs. And almost all the captions are a repeat of the captions from his childhood story. And so finally, he finds a safe place to hide, a broken freezer. So this is why this story is so dumb to me. It's like, I think Chance Strand thought it was cool. Like, whoa, the very similar thing happens to him that happened to his childhood. But it's too similar. The chances are just, it's so ridiculous that, once again, a freezer is his salvation and his doom. Just a really dopey story. And unfortunately, some of the sloppiest Tommy Lee Edwards art I've ever seen. I had some of his earliest comics. I don't have them anymore. It's not his fault. Just the writing wasn't that great. And even when he came right out of the gate, he was better than this. He was really good. So the story ends with him saying, find me, mama. Please, please, mama. Ugh. Not very good. This next one's called A Hole in the Head. And this is written by Jeff DeMoss and illustrated by Scott Gillis. They did a story about 10 issues ago in Dark Horse Presents. Also, if you might remember Scott Gillis, he drew that Perdita Durango graphic novel. I showed that off a few months back. This is a weird little story. These three guys sitting around talking about this guy who died. And I guess this guy was obsessed with holes. Very weird. When he used to masturbate, he used to stick a needle into his urethra. He loved digging holes. When he became a rich man, he's got this idiotic donut room. It's like a donut trophy room. Just everything with holes. He's almost like a little Dot from Harvey Comics. It's just as dumb. He finds a kid in Guatemala who's got stigmata. He's fascinated by that because he's got holes in his hands. He collects every kind of tire because it's a hole. So I guess this guy Arthur, the guy who's obsessed with holes, turns out he kind of I'm sorry, the guy, he didn't die. He disappeared. I jumped the gun there. Turns out he's kind of pulling a Howard Hughes. So he owns all this land. So I guess there's these caverns, and he's been living in them with a blow-up sex doll, who of course has a hole for a mouth. And there's a little earthquake. The guy says, damned atomic testing. Why don't they ever stop? I guess, I don't know. Maybe this takes place in the past when they used to still do atomic testing. And one of the stalactites, damn it, I can never remember which ones are hanging from the ceiling. Stalagmites lands right on the sex doll and punctures her. And then Arthur goes over and picks up the God damn it, I'm probably getting that wrong. Let's just call it the thing. And he says, I've been wrong all these years. It's not the circle, the void. It's the triangle. This is the most stable of forms. Triangle. Kind of a dopey story. And not very well drawn. I don't know. Not my favorite. And now we have number 127. Another gorgeous cover by Dan Brereton. Man, I love his painted work. And this is the last chapter of our Nocturnal story. We see Bandit, Star, and Gunwitch are still looking for little witch girl. And they've got her all tied up. They're about to put her in the stew. And then our three heroes back here are attacked by bats. Thousands of them. Maybe he did do this for black and white. I don't know. It's really great. This, whatever she is, this witch lady is pretty nasty. So she reaches into Witch Girl's little bucket of Halloween candy, and there's toys in there. And if you guys remember, that's Witch Girl's power. She's got these little toys that she can make come to life and turn into giant monsters. And the witch actually bites the head off of this gorilla. She thinks it's a candy dispenser type thing. And she's just chomping it with her big, scary mouth. But then all of a sudden she goes, huh? And she vomits up the gorilla head. And the gorilla turns into this giant gorilla monster and tears her apart. And then her other toys come out to play. There's a Pez dispenser with a skull head. And of course they're gonna rip the shit out of these pumpkin head guys. I like this when they finally come upon this house. They hear the screams, and they're like, "Oh, witch girl's at it again. Poor critter's never had a chance. I mean, I love her, but that kid's a menace." As a bandit says. So we see the witch lady. She turns into like a half bat form and flies away. Star says, "That's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen." And they head off home after a few some funny repartee. And at home we see Doc and what's-her-face waiting for them to get home. It's kind of weird, interesting. Well, not weird. It's interesting that they actually put in a sketchbook page of Dan Brereton. We got a page of letters. And we have chapter 2 of Metalfer. Chapter 2 is called Manhunt. Look at this total heavy metal shit going on. This is pure, like, Log Tomorrow or Harry Canyon and stuff. So these mercenaries are just mowing down people in the crowd, trying to get to Jones, the scientist. They're really, Wilson, the hit leader, he's really pissed off. He's just getting just like, this motherfucker. He's the luckiest motherfucker in the world. I like the scene here where he leapfrogs across these little floating devices to escape their gunfire. And then one of them, though, starts falling. I guess one of the bullets hit its stabilizer. And once again, he miraculously survives this huge crash. He lands in this giant Sexorama building. Look at this amazing detailed art. I think I might have something else by these guys, like a shadow graphic novel they did for Dark Horse. And I want to take that off the shelf and check that out. I'm pretty sure that's in color too. So he finds himself in a church, Jones. And he says, "I'm stuck again. I can't go on running." And then he prays to Jesus for a miracle and says, "Wait a second." This light comes through the window. He's like, "That's it. This is the perfect time to test the device in the briefcase. My new invention, the ultimate test." So the bad guys come into the church, and one by one they start getting picked off. We don't see what it is yet. But of course, it's Jones, and he's got this amazing exoskeleton. I don't know how this fit in the briefcase. It seems, whatever, suspension of disbelief. And we end on a cliffhanger where they're about to do battle. Basically, Jones is like saying, "Come on, let's have at it." So now we have Shane Oakley. I've always liked this guy's art. He always pops up in like weird little anthologies and stuff. And he's got a really interesting art style and definitely a storytelling style. His panel arrangements are always kind of quirky and weird. I usually like his stuff. Let me double check on this if he had writing help. No, this is all Shane Oakley. This is chapter 1 of Stiltskin. That's the name of it. So we see these like kind of crazy religious fanatics. And I guess they're burning books in this one, like, it seems like it's almost like this hobo cult where all these homeless people adhere to this bishop's beliefs. He's a total fucking, cult leader type. Just everyone just worships him. And he tells his followers that tonight's the night we're going to make the sky burn. So they're up to something. We don't know yet. So now we go to our main character. And this is Stiltskin. His real name is Egon Skinner. And I guess he's world famous. He's just written a #1 best-selling biography. And it looks like he's a billionaire. He lives in a mansion. He's very nice to his maid. It's New Year's Eve. Gives her a bottle of champagne. This is the kind of like stylistic flourish that Disraeli does. Kind of fun stuff. Kind of actually reminds me of... Wait, Shane Oakley. He reminds me of Disraeli, the English cartoonist. Lots of weird angular flourishes like that. So now we flash back to 1955. We see his father. He's a young soldier, and he's at the first atomic test. He didn't want to sit behind the trench. He wanted to watch the mushroom cloud, because to him, it was like seeing the hand of God. Of course, a couple years later, his wife is going to give birth to a child, to Egon, and she dies in childbirth, and he's a mutant, basically. And I don't think he makes the connection that it's because of the atom bomb. That's what I mean by this really interesting art here. So we see Egon growing up, and, he needs a lot of operations. And so he basically grows up in hospitals, poor Egon. This is how he sees the world in the hospitals because of all the bright neon lights. Not neon, I'm sorry, that kind of shitty lighting in institutional buildings. He's not a very happy kid, as you can imagine. The one happiness he got was exploring his imagination. So we see him here. He makes up the story for himself where he builds a spaceship, lands on this planet, and kills the evil dictator. And all the little munchkin people on the planet treat him like a hero. It's almost like he's like Adam Strange and Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz rolled into one. And he loves making up these little stories in his head and pretending it's him, his escape. Finally, he gets to the age, he doesn't need a wheelchair anymore. His father says, you got to go to school, son. And he knows it's going to be hard. He knows the kids are going to be mean. So he just says, you got to be tough. Stick up for yourself. And it's even worse than you imagine. The kids are just so cruel and just nonstop. Every day is just a gauntlet of shame and humiliation. He does meet this one fat kid. And he says, yeah, nobody likes me because I'm fat. So we should be friends. And they are. Then finally, the father pulls him out of school. It's not working. He gets him a private tutor. It's this beautiful, sweet lady who never looks down on him, never judges him. Annie, her name is. And his life gets so much better. And he remembers one day, his 13th birthday, where his father took him out to the woods and showed him the secret pond, a beautiful, untouched sylvan pond in the middle of the woods. And he says, my dad showed me this when I was 13, and now I'm showing you. So it looks like things are looking up for little Egon. He's got a great dad. You can really sense the love between the two in this. And but then on the way home, they see a rabbit who was not quite dead. It was twitching in shock. He was shot in the stomach by a hunter, I guess. And the father picks up the rabbit in his hands, and Egon sees his father cry for the first time. Now we got the contributors page, and next video, I'll show you what happens to Egon Skinner, Stiltskin. This is really dumb here. This is China Clugston Major. She, that's how you say her name. She does that Blue Monday comic strip. Oni Press published a lot of these. I never read them. I was very turned off by the manga-ish art. It's just that cutesy kind of manga art, and it's obviously not real manga. It's not a Japanese person doing it. But it's also like extremely like, her comics are just, I don't know, it reminds me of like Hot Topic stores. Like, it's all about like hip ska guys and rude boys. And this one's about how to talk Irish. And I don't even know if she's Irish, this woman, this cartoonist. But it's just so dumb. Telling us the definition of gobshite and bollocks. It's another waste of a page here. Terrible. But this is not a waste of a page. It's beautiful back cover by Shane Oakley of Stiltskin. Love everything about this composition, color. Really interesting. The drawing. Nice stuff. So that's it, guys, for Dark Horse Presents number 124 through 127. Hope you enjoyed looking at these with me. I definitely like looking at them, and like I always say, I love anthologies, even when there's turds in them, like some of the ones we just looked at, because it's always interesting just to see what's going to be in each new issue and like who's going to show up, what artist, what character. So these Dark Horse prints are really fun. You never know who's going to show up, like Val Myrick on the cover of this one. Kind of weird. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.